Hello guys, so welcome to Chemistry for Engineers. This is still part of Module 1, Chemical Safety. And now we will start with chemical hazards. So sa mga hindi pa po nakakakilala sa akin, I am Nilton Sikagumbay. I'm a registered chemist and a licensed professional teacher who teaches here in Camarines Polytechnic Colleges. So let's go. Okay, for these chemical hazards, the objectives of this video is first, identify the different types of chemical hazards and corresponding warning symbols. We will differentiate chemical toxins and the routes to exposure. And lastly, determine ways to be chemically safe. So unang-una sa lahat, let's first identify or let's first define the term hazards and risk. When we talk about hazards, this is something that can cause harm. For example, electricity, chemicals, working up a ladder, noise, keyboard. Keyboard kasi it can cause harm. Diba? Pwede siyang ipukpok sa'yo. So it can cause harm. A bully at work, stress, etc. So anything that can cause harm, that's considered a hazard. Okay? So anything, actually, if you will look around you, maraming hazards sa paligid natin. Pero ang titignan natin would be the risk. Because risk is the chance, either high or low, that any hazard will cause somebody harm. Okay? So, for example, yung keyboard, nakalatag lang dyan. Wala namang mangyari sa keyboard. So, less yung risk, so low yung risk noon. Okay? Low kasi dahil hindi naman siya makakapanakit ng iba. Pero let's say, for example, yung keyboard, ilagay mo siya sa taas, tapos pwedeng mahulog yun at mahulog sa ulo ng ibang tao, that will cause harm. So, mataas yung chance na magbibigay siya ng harm. So, risky yun, high risk ang tawag natin doon. For example, basa yung table. Hindi naman talaga, it can cause harm, yes, it's a hazard, but mababa yung risk nun kasi wala namang masyadong mangyari. Pero kung basa yung floor, so high risk yun. Bakit? Yung tubig na yun, because of that wet floor, pwede may madulas doon or kung anong mangyari, pwedeng maging daluyan ng kuryente yon or something. So, magiging siyang high risk. Okay? So, hazard or anything that can cause harm. Samantalang, when you talk about risk, it's about the chances of these materials, these things getting you, causing you pain or causing you harm. So, that's actually your hazards and your risk. So, we are not actually talking about hazards. So, take note, we have different types of hazards. You have your biological hazards, your chemical hazards, your ergonomic hazards, your physical hazards, your psychosocial hazards, and your safety hazards. Pero for this lecture video, we will just focus on the chemical hazards from its title. And take note, when you talk about chemical hazard, it depends on the physical, chemical, and toxic properties of the chemical. Take note, maraming tayong pwedeng ma-encounter ng chemical hazards, but taking note na hindi yan makakuha sa atin unless merong higher risk. So we will talk about risk later on. Okay, so what do we really mean by chemical hazards? Okay, a chemical hazard is a type of occupational hazard caused by exposure to chemicals in the workplace. So anything na may chemicals actually can cause chemical hazard. Okay? Pero take note, iba-iba yung risk natin dyan. Okay? So anything na pag na-expose ka sa chemicals or sa effects ng chemicals na yun, that's actually chemical hazard. So we have actually 4 types of chemical hazard. First is flammability. You have yung pagiging mabilis niyang mag-react. You have your corrosivity, meaning it can change or alter the composition of living organisms and also other materials. You have toxicity, which is dangerous sa health ng isang living organism, especially ng tao. And of course, you have your reactivity. It's very explosive or it can combust readily sa air. So you have now these 4 types of chemical hazards. And usually makikita mo itong mga symbols na ito sa mga warning labels or sa mga labels mismo ng mga chemicals na binibili natin. Okay? And take note when talk about chemicals, hindi lahat actually ng titignan ninyo, lahat ng makikita ninyo sa paligid ninyo are chemicals. Okay? Kahit ang tubig, these are actually chemicals. So it so happened na not all chemicals has high hazards, and not all chemicals na may high hazards are really high risk kasi depende yan sa inyong exposure. Ito yung tinutukoy natin. So, tataas actually yung risk na ikaw ay, let's say for example, for toxic substances, ikaw ay malason if makapasok sa kanyang katawan. And paano nakapasok sa katawan natin yung mga toxic chemicals na yun? So, we have this route to exposure. So, we have inhalation, injection, skin absorption, ingestion, and other body openings. So you have your inhalation. So this comprises of dust particles, vapor, fumes na nalalanghap natin. So for example, nagbukas ka ng isang lalagyan na maraming dust particles, and that actually can come to your respiratory tract. So meron tayong mga chemicals na pag nasisinghot natin can be toxic to us already. Okay? We can also have your injection, so diniretso sa ating bloodstream. Now, may mga times din na injection ang pamamaraan ng exposure if ever may sugat tayo or na-pierce yung skin natin at nadiretso siya ngayon sa mga maliit natin mga veins or arteries sa ating skin. Okay? Skin absorption, pag na-apply siya sa skin or na-dikit siya sa skin, may mga times na mga chemicals natin na absorb mismo ng skin natin. Remember, we have pores in our skin that can absorb kung ano yung nasa surface niya. And maraming mga chemicals that can be absorbed by the skin. And of course, ingestion. It's the reason why we don't eat in laboratories or inside the laboratory, especially during experiments or during laboratory activities. Kasi both ways, we can contaminate. We can contaminate our food with what we are doing. We can contaminate what we are doing with our food. So, mahirap yun pag makain natin or mainom natin. And other body openings, like for example, yung mata natin, yung butas ng tenga natin. So, yan. Those are actually, or yung kung ano pang sugat sa katawan natin, those are actually other body openings na meron tayo. So, how do we now, ang pinakatanong natin dito is, how do we prevent now na itong mga chemical hazards na ito may makapasok sa katawan natin? Of course, simple lang ang ating solution dyan. Iwasan natin ngayon itong make sure na itong mga route of exposure na ito is pambaba din. I mean, let's prevent it. Let's say, for example, inhalation. So, for us to stop inhaling chemical hazards, you need mask. Okay, that's why we have a lot of maraming types of mask that we can actually use. Okay, especially if we want to stop chemical hazards, we use the N95 mask kasi yun yung naka-micropore. Okay. Then, you have also, kung sa injection, para wala kang naka-leave na, at saka skin absorption, walang naka-leave na body opening sa iyo, we usually use suits or laboratory gowns. Okay? We also use goggles for our eyes. Okay? So, we use gloves for our hands. Closed-toe shoes para sa ating mga paa. So those are actually ways, yung tawag natin is the PPEs, para maiwasan natin yung mga chemical hazards na to. So it can be chemically safe. So in summary, proper knowledge in chemical hazard is needed in observing safety in the laboratory and in the industry. So importante po ito. Sabi nga, it's better to be prepared and not to know safety by accident. So, yun lamang guys. Always remember to keep calm and love chemistry. See you on the next video.